All right. Hey guys, how we doing? Welcome back to Food Fight Club. This episode is going to be about what exactly is intuitive eating. Okay, so I've got my glasses here, and I'm going to read a little bit from my notes and also read a little bit to you from the Intuitive Eating book. This is the 4th edition, and we're going to go through the 10 principles of intuitive eating, and maybe I'll embellish a little bit and give my thoughts. So the first and foremost thing you need to understand is intuitive eating is not a weight loss program. Okay, it's not another set of rules that you're going to fail at. So just let that rest. Forget about weight loss for now. Okay. When I started my coaching with my intuitive eating coach, she asked me probably one of the most seminal questions that I've ever been asked in my life. And that was, do you want to lose weight or do you want to make peace with food? And at that point in my life, I was so depressed and, lost that I didn't want to lose weight. I just wanted peace of mind, and I just wanted to make peace with food and learn how to have a better relationship with food. So intuitive eating was created by two registered dietitians. They're educated women, Evelyn Tribole and Elise Resch. And they had been seeing their clients, and for an extended period of time, they would put their clients on programs and they would do good. And then a year or two later, they would come back having gained all their weight back and then some. And so Evelyn Tribole and Elise Resch, they got together and they were like, why do people fail at this? It's, it's very common, and they're trying to figure out what can we do to help these people. So I guess they went through all their data and they came up with this intuitive eating method. This is not the official definition, but I wrote this down. Intuitive eating encourages you to look inward to your body's own signals instead of following external rules like calorie counting, good versus bad foods, or specific amounts, specific meal times, specific number of meals in a day, stuff like that. So at its core, intuitive eating is a self-care eating framework that integrates instinct, emotion, and rational thought. Okay, so given that, let's go through each principle of intuitive eating with a brief explanation of each, and we'll keep in mind they're not arranged in any specific order of importance. So number one doesn't have to be number one. It's just the way they wrote everything out and have kept, for since its inception. So let's go through it. Principle number one is reject the diet mentality. Okay? Throw out the diet books and magazine articles that offer you the false hope of losing weight quickly, easily, and permanently. Get angry at diet culture that promotes weight loss and the lies they have led you to feel as if you were a failure every time a new diet stopped working and you gained back all of the weight. We've all been there. If you allow even one small hope to linger that a new and better diet or food plan might be lurking around the corner, it will prevent you from being free to rediscover intuitive eating. Okay, so forget the whole diet mentality. Easier said than done, but this is a process. This is something that you have to familiarize yourself with and, really internalize all these principles. Excuse me. Number two, honor your hunger. Okay? Keep your body biologically fed with adequate energy and carbohydrates. Otherwise, you can trigger a primal drive to overeat. Once you reach the moment of excessive hunger, all intentions of moderate, conscious eating are fleeting and irrelevant. Learning to honor this first biological signal sets the stage for rebuilding trust in yourself and in food. So, as we all know, we have this issue when we've been chronically dieting all our lives. We don't trust ourselves with food. Food becomes the enemy. You can't have a relationship with food if you view it as the enemy. So part of intuitive eating is relearning your hunger and satiety cues, okay? It may be hard at first. You may be such a restrictive dieter that your body doesn't tell you when it's hungry. You don't know how to read your body's hunger cues. Many people have different hunger cues. You might get a little lightheaded. You might feel a little airiness in your stomach. You may hear your stomach growl. You may get hangry, as some of us do. So you're going to have to really learn to cue in on your hunger cues. Also, let me see. Anyway, you may have to, at first, get on a schedule of feeding yourself, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. This way, your body has that internal, safety feeling. Like, okay, I'm getting fed. Because we restrict our diet so much, we're usually so fixated on not eating that we forget how it feels to be hungry, and we forget how it feels to be fed at, regular intervals, like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So if you are really not good at it right now, then give yourself some breakfast, then, wait a while, see if you ate enough, see how how your stomach feels, and then give yourself some lunch and, learn what it feels like to be full. So the thing about the body is you're usually full before you feel full. It takes about 10 to 15 to 20 minutes for your body to actually register full. So you have to really kind of tune in when you're eating, and it's a process. It's not going to happen in one day. So you got to work on this. Could take weeks, it could take months, but you have to re-establish these body, brain, emotional kind of highways in your body that are going to give you that biofeedback and let you know that, it's working. Something's working. You're making that connection again. All right, enough with that. Principle number 3 is make peace with food. Okay? Call a truce. Stop the food fight. Give yourself unconditional permission to eat. If you tell yourself that you can't or you shouldn't have a particular food, it can lead to intense feelings of deprivation that build up into uncontrollable cravings and often binging. It's happened to me. When you finally give in to your forbidden foods, eating will be experienced with such intensity, it usually results in Last Supper, overeating, and overwhelming guilt. When you have a food that you haven't had in a long time, you're going to enjoy it that much more, and you're going to want to keep eating it, and, you're going to overeat it. So just keep that in mind. Make peace with food. Eat the foods that were normally forbidden. Eat the carbs, eat the cheese, eat the butter, whatever is forbidden for you, and, learn to make peace with that food, okay? There's a concept called habituation, And they've done, studies where they took college kids and they said, okay, we're gonna have pizza for dinner for the next week, and they're all like, yeah, pizza. And then after like a couple of days, they're like, yeah, pizza. And then after like a week, they're like, ugh, pizza again. So eventually, when you eat these foods, they'll get habituated, and you will learn to like treat it like any other food that's not so much of a turn on because of your history in dieting. Okay? Keep that in mind. Number 4 is challenge the food police. The food police in your head. Scream a loud no to thoughts in your head that declare you're good for eating minimal calories or bad because you ate a piece of chocolate cake. The food police monitor the unreasonable rules that diet culture has created. The police station is housed deep in your psyche, and its loudspeaker shouts negative barbs, hopeless phrases, and guilt-provoking indictments. Chasing the food police away is a critical step in returning to intuitive eating. In other words, stop beating up on yourself because you had a piece of cake, or you ate a little too much, or you ate something that, you normally didn't let yourself eat. Okay? For me, personally, because of my history from early childhood of being restricted, the food police were, and being immersed in diet culture for the, rest of my life until I was 50, I had a lot of problem with the food police, and it still echoes in there sometimes. And I tell myself, shut up. We're not doing that anymore. And even after 8 years of, practicing intuitive eating, it still comes up once in a while. So it's normal. Just learn to ignore it or tell it to shut up, okay? Principle number 5 is discover the satisfaction factor, okay? The Japanese have the wisdom to keep pleasure as one of their goals of healthy living. In our compulsion to comply with diet culture, we often overlook one of the most basic gifts of existence, the pleasure and satisfaction that can be found in the eating experience. When we eat when you eat what you really want in an environment that is inviting, the pleasure you derive will be a powerful force in helping you feel satisfied and content. Okay? So, let yourself enjoy the food, because that's part of the experience of eating. If you're just going to eat salad with a little vinegar on it, of course, it's not going to be satisfying. It's not going to be enjoying, your meal. So discover the satisfaction factor. Okay, you can only get satisfaction if you're eating something that you enjoy, and in a good, inviting setting. Like, turn the TV off, put your phone down, maybe put a little classical music on. Sometimes I do that. I love Mozart. So, make it an environment that's, a little less stressful. You don't want to eat when you're stressed out, and just take a deep breath before you start eating. And also, keep in mind that the first 2, 3, 4 bites of your meal are going to taste the best. Okay? So what I do sometimes, my wife laughs at me, I take a bite and I'll be like, that's so good, and I like vocalize it because I want to make sure that I enjoy that moment of, that first bite. And, a lot of times we get that high from that first 2, 3 bites. It tastes so good. And then your taste buds, for lack of a better term, they get a little more numb to the flavors you're eating. And then what happens is you finish what you're eating and you're like, I want that, unconsciously you're thinking, I want that taste again. So you take more and then you eat and it's not satisfying you. So that's another thing to consider when you're, eating for satisfaction, and also when you're considering listening to your satiety cues. Even though those first 3, 4 bites were delicious and you enjoyed them, don't overeat chasing that flavor because it's not going to come back. And I think that's a pitfall that most of us fall into. All right, number 6 is feel your fullness. Okay, what I was just saying. In order to honor your fullness, you need to trust that you will give yourself the foods that you desire. Listen for the body signals that tell you that you are no longer hungry, and observe the signs that show that you're comfortably full. Pause in the middle of eating and ask yourself how the food tastes and what your current hunger level is. So it's good when you are in the middle of your meal, put your fork, and I always put my fork down in between bites, but put your fork down, take a breath, ask yourself how you feel. You may say, I'm like halfway there, and you eat a little more. Or you may say, I'm coming close to the last bite. So you kind of mentally have to check in while you're eating if you're going to do intuitive eating. All right? So principle number 7 is cope with your emotions with kindness. Okay? And this is where a lot of us are going to, have to work. First, recognize that food restriction, both physically and mentally, can, in and of itself, trigger loss of control, which can feel like emotional eating. Find kind ways to comfort, nurture, distract, and resolve your issues. Okay? Anxiety, loneliness, boredom, and anger are emotions we all experience throughout life. Each has its own trigger, and each has its own appeasement. Food won't fix any of these feelings. It may comfort for the short term, distract from the pain, or even numb you, but food won't solve the problem. You ultimately have to deal with the source of the emotion. This was a big one for me too, because I realized once I started studying intuitive eating that I was an emotional eater. We lived upstairs from my parents, and sometimes I'd come home from work and my mom would start. She would say something, I would get angry, and I'd say, I'll see you later. And I'd go upstairs, and then I would just open the pantry and start and pull something out and eat it. Because I was, eating to quell the emotion of anger. So I realized I was an emotional eater, aside from being, a binge eater and an overeater at meal times. I was definitely, an emotional eater. It mentions anxiety and loneliness, and it's all part of it. You have to realize and be aware, self-aware for this process to really take hold. All right, so principle number 8 is respect your body. Accept your genetic blueprint. Just as a person with a shoe size of 8 would not expect to realistically squeeze into a size 6, which is funny, I'm sorry. It is equally futile and uncomfortable to have a similar expectation about body size. But mostly, respect your body so you can feel better about who you are. It's hard to reject the diet mentality if you're unrealistic and critical of your body size or shape. All bodies deserve dignity. So, yeah, you can look at this, from the viewpoint of this is the body that the Creator gave you. God gave you this body, and even though you may be trained to think it's too big, and you've been, dieting your whole life, and you're still big, where did that get you? So respect your body, love your body. Your body is a miracle machine. There's millions of chemical reactions going on in your body every second. It's a wonder of nature, and you just have to really kind of come at it from that point of view. Okay? So try and put all that dissatisfaction out of your mind, or try and meditate through it, or, just learn more about bodily functions and how miraculous your body is. Okay? All right, principle number 9 is movement feel the difference, okay? So forget militant exercise. Just get active and feel the difference. Shift your focus to how it feels to move your body rather than the calorie burning effect of exercise, okay? If you focus on how you feel from working out, such as energized, it can make the difference between rolling out of bed for a brisk morning walk or hitting the snooze button, you know? So if you can forget about all those crazy workout fads and, thinking you got to be in the gym for, an hour every day or 2 hours every other day or whatever is, whatever's your past habits or thinking, it's best to just give yourself a little, how can I say it? Give yourself a break when it comes to movement, okay? I like more of the gentle stuff. I like try and get 7,000 steps in every day. And I don't practice it anymore, but I learned some Qigong exercise, which is like a Tai Chi, but it's older. You can look up Tai Chi. You can look up anything on YouTube now and learn some gentle movement, okay? It doesn't have to be, lifting weights and, going crazy in classes and all that stuff. Just, get moving, be gentle, take it slow, and, you'll actually begin to like it, okay? So principle number 10 is honor your health with gentle nutrition, okay? Make food choices that honor your health and taste buds while making you feel good. Remember that you don't have to eat perfectly to be healthy. You will not suddenly get a nutrient deficiency or become unhealthy from one snack, one meal, or one day of eating, okay? It's what you eat consistently over time that matters. Progress, not perfection, is what counts, okay? So, again, this goes back to, taking it easy on yourself. If you're at work and someone brings in a box of donuts and you have a donut, it's not the end of the world, If you have extra bread with your lunch, it's not the end of the world, okay? Just get some good, nutritious food in you, and it's like the 80-20 rule. Like 80% of the time, if you eat food that's good for you, and, you have a little, what they call in intuitive eating, play foods, if you like chocolate, or you like ice cream, you're not going to die if you have a bowl of ice cream, a couple scoops of ice cream. You're not going to gain 10 pounds from eating 2 or 3 cookies or even 7 cookies. It's not, it takes time for the body. Like the body thinks in like more of a quantitative time frame. Like, yeah, if you pig out for 3 weeks, yeah, you're going to put on a couple of pounds. But, stop beating yourself up because you had a cookie or an extra breadstick at Olive Garden or whatever, Not that I eat there, but if you do, it's cool. Anyway, I just wanted to get these like basic principles laid down, and I definitely suggest picking this book up and reading through it, front to back at least a couple of times, because this is like the Bible of intuitive eating. She also has a lot of other books out there. If you put in her name in, Amazon, all her books will come up. Evelyn Tribole, I'll put it in the description down below. Anyway, I think that's a good episode for today. Please hit the like button, subscribe, share it, leave me a comment down below. Let me know, I hope to build a community in these comments where we're all supporting each other. Okay, you'll see, it's a beautiful thing. And then maybe down the line, we'll do some one-on-one coaching. Maybe we can do a community of people who want to, have that support for each other. So there's good things coming down the road. But anyway, I hope this was a good episode for you. I hope you're all well. And I will see you next time. Take care.